They started yesterday, I believe, when I got off the subway last night, about 8 o'clock. The light was still on the Capitol. They were working away. I figured up to no good, probably the conference committee meeting on this tax cut bill. What's your expectation? And of course, today's election could change the vote count. But let's assuming it stays where it is now in the Senate. What's your expectation? Are they going to get a tax cut bill through, and how good or how bad is it?
You know, I don't know, and I think there are still many hurdles to overcome before we get to a final product that they want to apparently get voted on next week. I mean, right now the math doesn't work out, and to try to make some of the changes, whether it's on the corporate AMT, whether it's adjusting estate tax, how they handle the individual mandate, these are all important policy decisions, but they also add or subtract money to the final amount. And right now they're stuck with $1.5 trillion, which is how high as they can go to meet the Senate reconciliation rules. And so, if they eliminate the corporate AMT, I think that's $173 billion that they need to find somewhere else. And so, look, at the end of the day, they will come up with a compromise. Is it one that Susan Collins, Jeff Flake, John McCain can vote on? I think you start to see over the weekend Collins start to back away a little bit from the vote, and I think she realizes now that she probably got taken as part of the negotiations.
Oh yeah.
And I think Flake may soon find out that his assurances of being part of any DACA conversation were pretty empty as well. So it will be interesting.
But they knew what they were getting into. They knew this is who Donald Trump is. I mean, you can't go into this to this argument or this negotiation with Donald Trump in good faith and say like, oh, okay, well, he said I'm going to get this, so surely I feel safe about it. Like they probably just laughed at them when they walked out.
They
of
were
the room.
Suckered. They were totally suckered.
Completely.
Yeah.
For Donald Trump, the art of the deal is reneging on deals, and that's what he has done throughout his entire business and political career.
Yeah. And that's what he's doing here. So what you're saying is there's a chance they won't get a bill.
I think there's a chance, but I think given the priority that the White House has put on this, and this is part of core Republican principles to cut taxes, I think they will eventually
for
get
the wealthiest of
for the wealthiest of Americans.
Right.
It is interesting. I mean, if you go back and look at Ronald Reagan's tax reform, and it generally was tax reform in 1986. Ronald Reagan said he wasn't signing it unless it was revenue neutral, and he was able to cut the individual tax rates, and then he added the money back on the corporate side. This is not a tax bill that Ronald Reagan would have signed.
No, this is not tax reform by any measure.
No, and we should stop calling it tax reform. It's a tax cut for the wealthy bill.
In fact, I've noticed, that's all Donald Trump calls it, tax cuts. At least he's honest about that. Tax cuts, tax cut, tax cut. That's what we're delivering at Christmas. He doesn't say tax reform anymore, tax cuts. So in terms of, you talked about the burden of carrying Roy Moore with them into the midterm elections of 2018. There's another burden they're going to carry, which is this tax cut bill, right?
Yeah, the polling on this thing is terrible. The USA Today poll yesterday found that it polls worse than any major piece of legislation passed in the last 30 years, including the ACA. The other poll that 538 did last week, they compared the approval rating of this thing. This tax cut, and I'll in parentheses, in quotation marks, this tax cut polls worse than the 1993 Clinton tax increase and the 1990 Bush tax increase. So when your tax cut polls worse than a tax increase, that is not a good thing. And clearly the American people have seen through this. The overwhelming majority do not believe their taxes will get cut.
Right. And whatever number approve it now, don't you think that number has to go down once most people really don't know the details of this bill yet, but once they see that they're getting screwed, right? Once they see who's really benefiting from this bill, which may not, let's hope that they discover that before the midterms and not after.
Well, and it's important, I think, for progressives to continue to air the facts on this. And I think it's, this is one where we can't rest after, again, assuming a bill gets passed. We need to keep hammering home the implications of this for people earning $75,000, the $1 trillion of debt this adds to 13 million people who are going to lose health insurance when the individual mandate goes away. And I think keep hammering that home. And I think Democratic candidates will have a field day with this next year.
Mm-hmm.